Hey guys, once again I've come to talk about even more JRPGs that surpassed my expectations. Games I thought I wouldn't like or that I thought will be average. All of them turned out to be well beyond that, so let's begin. Number 10. Astral Chain. Back when I was streaming the first couple of hours of every JRPG ever, I played this one. Some of you might remember that stream where I thought the game was good but very hard to get into. Several months elapsed until I gave it a second chance during a second stream of the following 2 hours. My impressions were the same. The game was pretty good, but I wasn't sure I'd ever go back to it. Years passed. Yeah, I had lost interest on it, but it always remained as a thorn in my backlog. I stared at it from time to time until it finally stared back at me. So last year I gave it a third and final chance to make a decision about keeping it or not. I'm so glad I did because I couldn't believe what I had been missing all of this time. I wasn't wrong about the game being hard to get into. Controls are quite complex since every single one of them does something important. Hell, some even do more than one thing. And you're literally controlling 2 characters at the same time, your silent protagonist and their legion. The learning curve was tough, and since I had abandoned the game for a long time, I had to reacquaint myself with the controls and the story again, but I pulled through. Looks like my hands kind of remembered a few things, so I was fine around the time when I hit the 6 hours mark. From there, it was nothing but a blast. I did find other problems with the game like platforming mixing with the puzzles, but the rest was just fantastic. And one last thing that impressed me was the graphics. For a game to be running smoothly on the Switch, Astral Chain was sure a sight to behold. Number 9. Digimon Survive. I covered this game recently in this other video, but I'm not here to review it. I'm here to explain why the heck did I enjoy a Digimon game despite not being a fan of the series. The truth is that I've stated through my whole YouTube career that I don't like Pokemon, so naturally I don't like any of its clones. Digimon was always a competition, but the developers were always trying different things. I thought that was interesting, but after playing a few of them on the PS1, the GameCube and the DS, I realized I just wasn't a fan. The games are not for me. And you know what? After playing Digimon Survive, I don't want to give you any hope. I still don't think this series is something I'll get into. But I loved Survive because it's a grid-based tactical RPG, sure, but also because it mixed an interactive visual novel with a bunch of somewhat dark and mature themes. Some really unexpected tragedies and psychological outbursts occur in this game. I mean, you gotta understand I went into this game expecting the worst since it belonged to a series I don't like, and the review scores had been pretty mixed. I was expecting to read tons of nonsensical dialogue and play through a boring excuse for a tactical game, so my expectations were rock bottom. I'm glad I said them that way because I got a huge surprise like I mentioned 30 seconds ago. It's no masterpiece, but it sure is the type of JRPG that is right up my alley. Thanks Matt for sending this completely unexpected gift to me. You probably had a feeling I'd like it, and well, I did. Number 8. Uta Wareru Mono Mask of Deception. I've known about this series for a long time. I made a whole review about them. I knew they were visual novels and tactical RPGs. Wasn't too keen on that concept yet. Still, a friend of mine had this little special edition for a very decent price and it was sealed. So I bought it off from him with the intention of playing it one day. I did, but not on the PS4. Instead, I played its PS Vita version for a few hours, liked it, but didn't care too much about it. So I went on and covered it in a few videos. It even featured in the second episode of Hidden Gem or Hidden Trash. Actually, this was the original thumbnail with the main female character of the game. So, as you see, I never went back to it and just recommended it in an average way here and there. Little did I know the game was actually terrific, with a mind-blowing and unexpectedly dark story, very memorable characters, and awesome combat. So one day last year I made up my mind to really give it a chance, so I restarted the whole adventure on the PS4 this time. And I finished it, and I immediately bought the sequel, Mask of Truth, also on PS4, and finished it like an idiot. I say like an idiot because this third game had a lot of spoilers about the first one, Prelude to the Fallen, but it was so hard to find that for a fair price on the PS4, so I had to go back to my PS Vita and play it there. So yeah, don't do what I did, everybody. If you're planning on getting into this amazing series, start with Prelude to the Fallen. Number 7, Magical Star Sign. I decided to include this game because, well, it's targeted for kids. I mean, just look at that cover. If that doesn't scream generic RPG for children, then I don't know what does. So many years ago, when I was trying to play as many Nintendo DS JRPGs as I could, I ran into this game. It looked mediocre, but I wanted to try it out because 1, I had absolutely nothing else to do, and 2, because No, you know what? I only played it because I had nothing else to do back then. So I did. Was it for kids? Actually, it was. But was it generic? Hell no. You control either a white elemental guy or girl and go on with your friends in a Star Trek-alike adventure to find your missing beloved teacher. Every student, your party members have one of the elements exclusive to them. And this is a game where you'll have to attack the enemy with the opposite element to succeed. It just turned out to be a game with tons of personality, great music, funny beats, solid interface, memorable characters, and a really cool battle system. I swear I touched no other JRPG when I got into it until I finished it. Yes, it was that good. Obviously, I don't recommend expecting much of it, so you can appreciate it for what it is. Number 6, Dead End Request. I recently finished this RPG for the first time and I can't believe what I'm about to say. It is the best compile hard JRPG I've ever played. I'm a fan of the company despite criticizing some of its games. The humor and fan service in them is on another level, sometimes bad, sometimes great. In that regard, Dead End Request is no exception, so I went in years ago with those expectations. But let me explain why it blew my freaking brains out. One random day, Sheena wakes up in a world familiar to her. It turns out she's been trapped in a character body inside her own virtual reality MMORPG, a game she and her team had abandoned over a year ago. Fortunately, the programmer Arata Mizunashi notices this and gets in touch with her. Neither have any idea where Sheena's real body is in real life, or how her consciousness came to be trapped in the world's Odyssey, the game, or even why the servers are up and running like nothing. So the story will go on from there, both trying to find a way to get to the bottom of it and find Sheena's real body. These will be done through both points of view. Sheena will be the traditional RPG, going from town to town, and an overworld between dungeons and whatnot. Arata will be the visual novel part, because whenever Sheena finds a glitch or a bug where she can't proceed, Arata will need to uncover clues in real life. Then, other girls will join Sheena, girls that are, well, might be real people trapped in the game too. It's just that neither Sheena or them remember anything. So yeah, the story's awesome, and it can get really freaking dark quite often. Combat is also fantastic here, dare I say the best I've played from Idea Factory and Compile Hard. It plays in turns with up to 3 active party members, except they can move around the entire battlefield in order for you to position them in the spot you want. Also, they can execute up to 3 different attacks against one or multiple enemies. If the third attack has a knockback option, they will send the enemy flying across the screen to bump into each other or against the walls, almost like a bowling game. If they bump into a party member, they will hit them back to keep the bouncing going. Also, those little magic circles in there increase the experience points you'll get if the enemies touch them during the knockbacks. If you touch them though, most of them will harm you, others will heal your SP, etc. Touching them also means the girl's corruption level will increase. Once it reaches 100%, they die. But if it reaches 80%, they transform into sexualized demons. And for one turn, their stats greatly increase and can use a special attack. I'm telling you, the combat is phenomenal. It does have a few broken boss fights that are infuriating, but I'm sure you'll find a way around them. Wow, I wasn't expecting to review a game in this video, but I just couldn't wait for another chance. I can't believe it took me 3 years to return to it and finish it. Play it, it's really good. Number 5. Relayer. Relayer is a strategy RPG that caught me by surprise. I have reviewed it in a bunch of videos throughout last year and this one, so you've probably seen me praising it a few times. Why, though, did it surpass my expectations? Well, that's because, let's face it, by looking at it and playing it for the first couple of hours, it just shows it's nothing but a low-budget generic video game, right? So my expectations were close to zero with this release. At first, I only played the demo, which is like 7 hours long. I'm not kidding. And those 7 hours left a good impression on me, but I was never really that interested in finishing it. When I did though, I realized I had been missing on a great ride with tons of interesting characters. Story wasn't as visual novel-ish as I thought it was, even though sometimes it went nuts with dialogue, and the battle maps eventually changed location, so it wasn't always on these layers of stars near some asteroids or planets. It was, however, a low-budget game, but for one, developers sure tried their best and made every penny of that budget worth it. Overall, it wasn't a masterpiece that blew me away, but it sure surpassed my expectations. I really thought it would be nothing but your average super robot Tyson clone with generic story and combat. Thank goodness it ended up offering way more than that. Number 4. Valkyrie Chronicles 3. This third entry never came out of Japan. Why? Well, the reason is actually connected to my expectations. Valkyrie Chronicles was a masterpiece, critically acclaimed and whatnot. Then along came the sequel exclusive to the PSP. That right there was weird from the start. Why release the sequel to a commercially successful RPG on a portable system? Then people played the game and sure, it was great. I really enjoyed it, but it was just nowhere near as good as the first one. A military school simulator with an idiot as the main character and a bunch of anime tropes for party members. Yeah, still a good game though. Then along came the third Valkyrie Chronicles, again exclusive to the PSP, never to see the light outside of Japan. That happened because the second game had been a failure, so Sega didn't want to waste any more time and money on localizations. So when I found out about it, I thought it wouldn't once again be as good as the first one, or that it just would be another not so great release in the series, but as a big fan I couldn't resist, right? There was a fan translation out there, so why the hell not? I played it to find out my first impressions were highly positive story-wise, but the gameplay was almost identical to its predecessor on the PSP. Little by little though, more variety in missions and map designs caught my interest. Eventually I was hooked. And since the story was dark about a Black Ops group of outcast soldiers doing the jobs nobody else wanted to do, I fell in love with it. The characters were far more endearing than the ones in Valkyria 2, just as rich and well written as the ones in Valkyria 1. This is a masterpiece, guys. I loathe Sega for leaving it in Japan. It's been 12 years since its release and it's still stuck over there. Damn it, Sega, the world needs this game. But hey, at least it's fan translated, so definitely give it a chance if you can. Number 3. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The exact same thing happened to me with this game as with Valkyria 3. First game was amazing, second game I had mixed feelings about, third game blew me away. My expectations were low because I really thought the series had gone into a different direction. I really enjoyed Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and its prequel Torna the Golden Country, but they had a lot of issues and things I greatly disliked as well. Torna forcing you to do 10,000 fetch quests to unlock the rest of the game was bullcrap. Okay, I'll shut up about that. And the cheesiness and fan service of the sequel got me thinking that Xenoblade was going downhill. I watched the trailer of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and didn't find it that interesting, I confess. It looked cool, but the main cast, a bunch of teenage-looking characters saving the world. Yeah, you get the idea. So I bought the third game on day one, something I very rarely do, just for the sake of streaming it and reviewing it. I knew the internet would be obsessed with it and pay no attention to any other video whatsoever, so I kinda had to write for business. I'm so damn happy I did. You probably already know I ended up loving it and think of it as a masterpiece too, the best in the Xenoblade series. So now I know that my expectations were far surpassed, that those teenage characters will go through such horrible ordeals and succeed, that their bonds didn't seem cheesy and felt realistic, and that their reality was a harsh truth to behold in a journey very, very worth playing. Number 2, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. I don't know why I didn't include this game in the previous videos, perhaps because I've told the story before, but it's been a long time since I last did. It is a poster child of a JRPG that surpassed my expectations. You see, I wasn't a fan of Fire Emblem at all before this game. In fact, I had never played a single one of them, but I had a few friends and acquaintances that I had met over the years that were diehards, always trying to convince me to play some of them, but I just didn't have the systems to play any of them on. Plus, I always felt they were overhyping the game, so that left a bad impression on me. Back in my PS1 days, I didn't like technical RPGs, none of them, not a single one. That didn't change until Eternal Poison came into my life on the PS2, and you know the rest. So naturally, now that I was a fan of the genre, the Fire Emblem curiosity got the best of me. One day I got a GameCube with a bunch of games that I was planning to resell. I was a reseller back then, most of you know this. So that part of the story is something I have told in recent times, on how I got this holy grail pretty much for free since I resold everything else but the game and the console. Anyway, I finally played this game and of course it blew me away. It was way better than what those guys had told me before. I encountered a masterpiece and became an even bigger diehard than them. Today I've played every single Fire Emblem game ever except Engage. And yes, even that gacha game, Heroes. And I still hold this, Path of Radiance, as my personal favorite amongst them all. Number 1. You knew this game will be here, man. I didn't give it a chance until Christmas of 2022 and noticed every single one of you fans of this game were right. Plus, it was also a gift from my fan Matt who sent Digimon and Relayer, so I felt obligated to play them out of respect. I'm so happy I did. Yakuza Like a Dragon felt previously like a turn-based RPG everyone loved except me because I had barely touched it. The first time was back when it came out. I borrowed it from a friend and all I got was a Yakuza simulator, another game in that series I didn't really care for. It had good ideas but I wasn't hooked, so I covered it in a few videos and forgot about it. But you guys kept asking me over and over if I had played it, if I will give it a second chance. I'm sure you remember that I promised during streams that one of these days I will do it. But I just didn't like the games. I had played the first one on the PS2 many years ago and couldn't get into it, or I didn't even try since I didn't find the idea appealing at all. I just felt like I was playing some kind of Japanese version of Grand Theft Auto. Well, I was wrong, and then I got this game. When I finally gave it that second chance, I went through the same part that I had played before, but it was different this time. Maybe because I had a different mindset, maybe because I was expecting the worst, ready to come here and tell you I told you I wouldn't like this type of game. Now you know that never happened. I'm glad I stuck by Ichiban Kasuga and his funny, charming and memorable quest to find out the truth. It really was an inspiration to play his adventure and all the political incorrectness of it. Am I a fan of the Yakuza series now? Not really, but maybe I'll give one of them a chance sometime. So that's 10 more JRPGs that surpassed my expectations. Any you'd like to share, leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!